Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Ryan. Many of you may know me by the screen name Canis Lupus on DBSTalk.com. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the DBSTalk Show, DirecTV Edition. On this first episode, we're going to introduce you to multi-room viewing, or as it's known nationally, Whole Home DVR Service. We'll give you a run-through of the technologies and getting it set up in your own home. But first, many of you, I'm sure, have heard about the new 24 series of receivers from DirecTV. We've got a side-by-side speed comparison with the long-standing workhorse of the DirecTV family, the HR20700. First, we wanted to make sure we had an identical setup, so we took an HR20700, set it to 1080i with native off. This was connected through a single-wire multi-switch. We had an Ethernet cable plugged into the back. The video was through HDMI, and we had an optical audio out. For the 24500, we did the same thing. We set it native off 1080i, and then on the back we had the same cables that were set up for the HR20700. Using the same Sony Bravia TV, we picked 5 random tests, and we thought we would start with native off channel change from ESPN to HBO. And surprisingly, the HR20700 was only about a half second behind the 24500, so quite even. In the next test, we did 5 page downs or channel downs in the guide. And again, the HR20 was not too far behind the HR24, not even a second. Our third test is where the HR24 started to really shine. In accessing the to-do list, it was nearly 40% faster than the HR20700. In the next test, again, it was the HR24 that was significantly faster when you pressed list, channel down, and then play. In both cases, a show played from a folder, that's just where it was in the list, but again, twice as fast. In our final test, we hit the guide, entered a channel, and then selected to tune to that channel. And again, in this particular case, the HR24500 was about 1/3 faster in changing from an HBO channel to ESPN than was the 2700. So, as you can see, the HR24 is very impressive in its speed increases for many functions. But I've got to give it up to the HR20 for holding its own in some of these basic tests. Of course, your mileage may vary, but we thought we would give you a real-world comparison with these 5 example tests. Now on to DirecTV's Whole Home DVR Service, aka MRV, which began rolling out across the US in May of 2010. Here's a look at some of the technology and how it works. First off, it's important to note that in order to use Whole Home DVR Service, you need to have a single-wire multi-switch, or SWIM for short, system. Connected home adapters, or what we call DECA modules, are required to connect not only to your router, but also to any receiver that does not have DECA built in, like an HR20 for example. The installation process starts with the SWIM power inserter, and this cable is coming in from the dish. In this installation, we've got a pigtail cable going from the power inserter to a 4-way splitter, because in this case, we have 2 DVRs plus an output that's required to connect to a router or a modem, depending on your setup. Once the DVRs are connected, it's now time to connect the DECA module to the router. In this part of the installation, you're treating the DECA module just like any other receiver, except instead of plugging it into the back of the receiver, you're actually plugging it into the power supply. And if all has gone well, you'll see some flashing green lights. Now it's time to attach DECA modules to all receivers that don't have DECA built in this case an HR20 in my office with simple RCA audio and an HDMI video output. Once connected, it's time to check our menu setup, so we go to Parental Faves and Setup, and we find that under System Setup, we now have Whole Home as a menu item. We select that, and then we can check the status of our DVRs. We can see that we have a connected DVR. We can filter the playlist to show all programs or only local programs. Press play on a program recorded on another DVR, and you're now using Whole Home DVR Service. That's it for this episode of the DBS Talk Show, DirecTV Edition. Join us next time as we walk you through a do-it-yourself installation of DirecTV's Slimline SL3 single-wire multi-switch dish. In the meantime, head over to DBSTalk.com and click on the forums and read about news and events for both DirecTV and Dish Network. And we'll see you on the next episode of the DBS Talk Show.